What's going on, everybody? Hey, so I don't know why I'm wearing headphones because I have no sound. So let me know in the chat if my audio is working. Would ya? I don't know why. I don't have any sound right now. It's not working. So let me know if it's working, please, before I even continue. I saw on the meter it said it was working, but I can't hear anything. So like all the intro music. All right, so it's working. So today I figured that I was going to talk a little bit about my time expediting and just kind of like a whole look at it and uh, and do all that stuff. And then I've got some very big news. So this is not one you're going to want to miss. Okay. But first, many of you guys know I jumped into the expediting world like 2 months ago. It was something that I kind of always wanted to do. I always wanted to get my CDL and drive, a Class B over the road, truck. Essentially, it's what I wanted to do for several years. I want to get my Class A eventually, but I settled for that, right? And I looked for a job driving the Class A semis for a long time, or the Class B semis for a long time, but I was unable to find one where they would hire a solo driver. So I was entertaining going on with a Mega for a little bit, and then decided that that wasn't the best path for me in terms of like getting my Class A and all that stuff. So I ended up thinking that I would just do some expedited van work. I applied. I actually found a post on Facebook, of all places, with someone that said that they were looking to add drivers to their fleet. Their fleet is leased on with a company out of Ohio. So I submitted the application. I ended up talking with the recruiter for a long time. The first question he asked is, he's like, why the heck do you want to jump in a van when, I have so much logistics experience and all that stuff? So, we talked for quite a long time, actually, probably over an hour with the recruiter, who's also the safety manager. He's pretty high up in the company. And then, I expressed to him, I wanted to drive a Class B semi, or the Class B, expediter truck with the semi with the sleeper and the box attached. That was kind of my goal, at that time. And he said, well, we actually have one of those trucks available. Let me call the owner, give him your number. Because again, this whole company is based on the owner operator model. So they don't have any company trucks. So a little bit later, I got a call from the owner of that truck. We talked, we hit it off. Within a couple of days, I was approved and I went to orientation. Now, the company, because if you're looking for a logistics, if you're looking to go drive an expedited van and you don't mind the sitting, and I'll talk about that in a second. I don't have a lot of experience with other companies. Like, there's Panther, V3, and all these other ones. But the company I worked with, I was a contractor, but the company I was working with was C&M Transport out of Ohio, Painesville, Ohio, I think. Now, this company's been around a really long time, right? And I think 25 years, something like that. They've been around. They're like a specialty expedited carrier, so they don't really mess around too much like some of the other ones. They have a lot of direct customers. They're very set on the way they do things. And obviously, it's worked for them. They've been in business for a long time. And I think it's important to say the company name, because when I was researching the different companies, it's pretty hard. You found some with Panther that were talking about Panther. Not a lot of positive stuff. This is a positive review. To be honest, even though, it all ended weird, and I'll explain that too. But it's a positive review just because of who C&M is, and what they do, and just my interactions with the actual employees within that company. So I went to the orientation that Monday. Many of you guys remember. I was super excited. I went to the orientation. The orientation was about 4 hours. It wasn't too bad. During that time, they did exactly what you would expect in an orientation for a company. They brought in all the department heads. You met them. You got to ask questions in real time about whatever it is that you wanted to ask. They talked about all the safety, all the procedures of the company, the billing procedures. For me, I had to go over the ELD. You demo book loads. They basically don't want you leaving until you actually feel comfortable to leave. You know what I mean? It's not like they're just trying to put you out on the road. And so they spent a lot of time. Like I could have truncated that whole training and did it probably in an hour or two. But they actually took the time to talk to everybody, which was pretty cool. Most of the people that were in that training immediately got loads. So, there was a sprinter guy in it. He immediately had a load that was going out for the next day. The other semi-truck guy, they got a load that was going back because they needed to go home and do some stuff there. So it was and then me, I walked out to the truck and realized it was a disaster. It was very dirty. So I had to clean all that stuff up. So I wasn't ready to go. After several hours of cleaning and getting it all ready and getting my, bearings, because I was a little ticked off that the truck was so dirty. And again, not the company's fault. It was a previous fleet owner. It was just a dirty truck. And I didn't, I mean, I was worried about catching something. That's how dirty it was. It was very dirty. So after a couple hours cleaning it up using a detail service and me, doing labor, and we got it all cleaned and scrubbed out and ready to go, enough that I could drive. So I went into dispatch, told them I'm ready to go, said I was running to Walmart to grab some stuff, and that's where I sat for the night. I didn't get a load that first night. I sat in a Walmart parking lot, and I was fine. I was content. I was happy. I was in a big truck. I was like, this is freaking awesome. The next day I ended up getting a load, and it went like 600 miles, not too far. And then, so I delivered that load the following day, delivered first thing in the morning, and then I sat. And unknown to me, and granted, it's not anyone's fault except mine, because the dispatcher said you're going to sit. The fleet owner with the van said you're going to sit. Now, the fleet owner with the truck didn't, and I thought I had a better likelihood of staying busy. Again, because I have so much experience in the logistics industry, I assumed that they would be booking loads off DAT and truck stop and all that, and just keeping the truck busy. Well, they don't do that because it's expedited freight. It's a whole different ballgame. I like to say, my new thing is to say logistics is kind of like a Rubik's Cube. There's many different ways, and I think this works. There's many different ways to actually solve the issue, but there's a lot of different paths that you take to get to, a delivery. I don't know. It's a weird analogy, but this is just another one. It's another segment of logistics that I had no experience with, and someone that's worked in it as long as I have in the positions that I've held. It's just very odd, to me. So I came in thinking I'm gonna rage this. I know how to book loads, I know how to run freight, I know how to deliver all that stuff, and then I get there and it was a whole different ballgame. So I was a little caught off guard by that. But so I ended up sitting, got another load I think the following day, 600-mile run, did it in a day. Delivered the next morning and sat and waited. And so I think that first week I only did 2 loads. I ended up having to sit for a weekend in the truck. And then, I started realizing there's a lot of issues with the truck. The APU, I couldn't really get it to run. Finally, I fixed the APU myself, got it running, and it was okay. It worked. Because I was worried about burning fuel, and, the truck running all night would burn like 1/8 of the tank of diesel, whereas the APU wouldn't even touch it, really. So I realized too, because I'm someone that thought I knew everything about logistics. So I complained. I probably was one of the most high maintenance drivers that they've had in a long time, because I kept calling them like, dude, what's going on? Where's the load? What are you doing? What are you doing? And so I do that like every day with these guys, right? And so eventually I had a good conversation with the safety guy, who's also the recruiter. I had a really great guy. Like, this guy is extremely knowledgeable. He knows so much about the industry, so much about safety. And his career, I believe, has been mostly expedited or all expedited. But he knows like the ins and outs of every freaking thing about the industry. So we were talking. He's like, yeah, man, it's a little different because, one, you don't have a co-driver. I knew that would be a limiter, right? So I'm limited by hours of service, how far I could travel. And then another big part of it was that I didn't have a lift gate on the truck. That also proved to be quite an issue, because a lot of the loads for the expedited straight trucks, the 33,000-pound CDL rigs, they have lift gate deliveries. And so that proved to be an issue because I didn't qualify for any of those. I didn't have a lift gate. I didn't even have a pallet jack on the truck. So long story short, a couple of weeks went by. I ended up doing some loads, but I never really, I sat more than I drove. Like, in all reality, for every day that I was on the road, I spent 2 days sitting in that truck. And I figured it must just be because of the air, the issues that the recruiter told me. And I was like, okay, I need to figure out something else, because for one, I was burning out because I just didn't like it. And I wanted to do something different. I wanted to run. I wanted to drive, see the country. That's why I did it, right? I could spend the time doing my homework, but I'd finish my homework and then have nothing to do, just watch TV. I blew through 100 gigabytes of data in like 3 days, literally just watching TV, because I couldn't even sleep. So long story short, a couple of weeks passed. I sat a lot. I was, kind of, pissy about it because I was sitting a lot. And finally I talked to them and said, man, if you get a van open, let me know. I want to switch into a van. And I know the hours of service don't apply to vans. Any of that stuff doesn't apply because they're under 10,000 pounds. And so I figured that I'd be able to stay a little bit busier, right? I knew there was going to be some sitting, but I figured I'd be able to stay a little bit busier. And with the semi, I couldn't go home. That was another reason why I wanted the van, because with the semi, we had to cover the fuel. We were having some issues because, just in full transparency, the fleet owner, the guy that owned the truck, he didn't have a lot of money. He spent a lot of money on the truck, getting it all ready and repaired and all that stuff. So he didn't have a lot of money. So I didn't have the luxury. I mean, there was one time I was in Pennsylvania, about an hour and a half from my house. I had to sit there for the entire weekend because we didn't have any money for fuel. And I certainly wasn't going to put my money and fuel into that truck because it would get me like 80 miles. You know what I mean? It was just expensive. Diesel's expensive, especially on the East Coast. And so I was trying to figure out a different solution. I said, as soon as a van opens up, please let me know. He said, we have a van open. Let me see if that owner's, okay with it. The owner actually reached out to me and said, hey, we got that van. If you want it, you can have it. And what's ironic is it was the original fleet owner from when I first applied. So I drove the truck back. The truck owner was actually overseas. So I texted him and said he was very cool about it. He understood, because he said we're kind of doing this trial and error. He doesn't have any expedited experience either. So he didn't know if it was going to be super profitable. And I don't think he was that surprised when I was like, nah, your truck. Oh, the big thing, the air conditioner died. That was what set it off. I was in the heat wave that happened like a month and a half ago down south. And I was in, I think, Alabama, or no, I was in Oklahoma or Louisiana. I was somewhere. And it was extremely hot down there. And I just couldn't do it because I had no AC. So I had to run the truck. I'm burning the diesel. We didn't have a backup fuel card because the fleet owner, didn't have money. So it was just not a good scenario, right? And then the APU wasn't working, so the air, cabin air wasn't working. It was a disaster. Long story short, I got in the van, right? So I drove back to Ohio, got in, they found a load, so I ended up driving back to Ohio, dropped the truck off, got in the van, immediately got a load that day. I was like, yes, this is great. So I got the load, drove all night, delivered it, slept for like 2 hours. Dispatch calls me and is like, we got a load. And I'm like, holy shit, this is what I was missing, right? So I go and do that load. And I think I did another one that week too. And then the inevitable happened. I sat. But I was close enough to home that I went home. And so it was okay, right? So I was at home for like 2 or 3 days. And then I got home on a Friday. They called me on a Sunday and said, hey, we have a load in Maryland going to New York City. Do you want it? And I said, sure. So I did that load, got up to New York City, sat and delivered, came out, sat in the rest area there on 95 for about 29 hours, right? And so I was annoyed because, again, I'm sitting and I didn't want, and I already spent all weekend at home too, so I wanted to run. You know what I mean? So that was like my big issue. They ended up giving me a couple of loads, but I started to realize something. For every day that I delivered, I did not get another load that picked up that day. Sometimes at the end of the day, they called and said, hey, we got a load for you tomorrow. Because the second shift dispatch at C&M Transport, amazing. I don't know what is in the water with this guy or what he drinks or what kind of coffee he's drinking or whatever, but he gets into his office and within like 5 minutes, he's like, yeah, I got a load. You want it? And I'm like, yeah. Just every time. And he busts his ass, I guess. Or he just got, I don't know, the magic phone or something where he just gets a load. So that's good. And so he ends up getting me a couple of loads, and which was fine. And then, I traveled around. Every day I'm delivering, I would sit for that day. And sometimes I'd get a load the next day, or sometimes I would sit until like 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock when the second shift came in the next day, and then he'd give me a load. So I was spending a lot of time sitting, and it was driving me nuts. I went home, I spent a weekend at home, and then left. And that was about a month ago. And then went out on the road, did a bunch of runs. I was all over the place. I was Ohio, Florida, Georgia, Ohio, North Carolina, South Carolina. I was just all over. Put the miles down. Actually started making some money, which was good. But the past like 2 weeks, I ended up sitting a lot, and then they called. I sat, I think I delivered on a Monday morning at 9 o'clock last week, Monday morning at 9 o'clock, and they didn't have a load for me. And I was like, damn it, dude. And I sat all day long. And then they called me around 6 o'clock that night and said, hey, we got a load for you picking up tomorrow morning at 9 in Pennsylvania. It was a pretty big deadhead, 300 and something miles, but you got paid for the deadhead, so it was okay. And they're like, it's going to Las Vegas. Do you want it? And I said, yes, but I want a load out of Las Vegas. And they're like, we got you. And I'm like, okay. because I didn't want to sit in Las Vegas. I knew it delivered on Friday. I knew the West Coast isn't ideal for expedited freight. In fact, many of the drivers that I talked to at the truck stops, because if you've ever been to a truck stop on the road, you'll see all these Sprinter vans and all these weird like box trucks that have a big weird sleeper on top of the cab. When I would stop there, all those guys come up to just talk to you because the majority of them are independent. This was a company, so everybody's asking about the company and talking about it. And I'm not really complaining too much about the sitting. Granted, I did it during the videos, but with the other drivers, I didn't want to do that because, again, the company itself and what they move is great. So I was trying to be like, oh yeah, you should call them to keep you busy, to a certain extent. But I also said, the type of freight, they're very picky on what they handle. Your rates are not, fluctuate, off pulling off of the Selectus boards or anything like that. It's a contract rate. So it was good. And then I started going to Vegas, and I picked up the load on Tuesday. I asked if they, were looking for a load. They're like, yeah. I called on Wednesday when I was halfway there and said, are you still looking for a load? They're like, yep. I called Thursday morning when I was, pretty close to Vegas and said, hey, are you still looking for a load for tomorrow morning when I deliver? I'm on time. I'm going to be delivering first thing in the morning. I don't want to stay here for the weekend. Do you have a load? And they're like, yeah, we're looking. I get to Vegas. I call them dispatch again, and I'm like, hey man, I'm at a truck stop outside of my drop. Are you guys looking for a load? And he's like, well, and I was like, listen, tell me the truth. Are you guys pre-booking these expedited trucks? And he's like, no. And I was like, what? And he's like, yeah, we're not really doing it. And I understand now, but then I didn't. And it pissed me off because I had to talk to all the other dispatchers, and they're like, yeah, we're looking. He's like, no, we don't. If something pops up and we know you're going to be there, like if a customer called them and said, hey, I got a load coming out of Las Vegas on Friday at 11 o'clock, it would have been my load. However, they don't actively look for loads for the trucks that are delivering until they're empty. And the reason and I don't know whether this is true. The only thing I could surmise is that they've probably been burned. They've been around so long that they've probably given loads to drivers, or pre-booked them. They get to Las Vegas, the dispatch gives them the other load, and then the guy's like, nah, I'm going to go gamble. I'm not taking that load. And that's a service failure for the carrier. So in the regard of expedited, I don't necessarily fault them for not looking for a load unless you know that the driver, like me, calling every freaking 20 minutes, wanted a load and wanted to go out. And so, like for me, so I was pretty mad. I'll be honest, when he told me that they don't actively look for loads, it ticked me off. And again, it's coming from a logistics, a regular trucking point of view. It's just a different ball game. It's a whole different thing. We didn't send a truck to a delivery unless we already had his load booked. Sometimes 2 or 3 loads in advance booked, because that's how I dispatch trucks. I want those trucks to stay busy. It's less work for me on a day-to-day basis. All I got to do is track it and then move on to the next. And so it's different because expedited's not that way. So you guys remember I delivered the load on to the T-Mobile Center. Great. It took a little bit of a while. And again, I'm a big, angry person most of the time. So I get in there, figure out where it's supposed to go, and then they come out and they're like, hey, man, we're offloading all these trucks, blah, blah, blah. And, just go wait in the parking lot. And I'm like, okay. And then the forklift driver came out, and he's like, yeah, they told me to come out. They're going to send stagehands to come do it. And then, I'm sitting there talking to him, nice kid. And finally, I'm like, dude, go get some stagehands. Let's go. I'll come in with you. I'll carry him in myself. What do you want me to do? And he literally turned around to start walking, and then all the stagehands came out. And so they had me empty in like a minute because each one of them took one of the cases, and I was gone. So that was so it was good. But then I was pissed. So I went back to the truck stop because so I called dispatch. I'm like, you got a load? They're like, no, we'll let you know when we got one, which meant I was not getting out of Vegas that day. Because I can base that summarization on the fact that every single time I delivered, I never got a load for that day. Not once. So I had a very good feeling that I was not getting a load. I was almost certain of it, right? So I made a video, and I was, just venting, basically, and just saying, like, listen, I really wish that they pre-book loads, because I just don't understand. For me, at that point, now I've had time to reflect, it makes more sense because they've been around for 25 years. They probably had a shit ton of carriers or drivers fall off loads. And so why would you pre-book loads if history tells you. Or here's a better one: it's expedited freight. It's a whole different ballgame. What if you get to a delivery and the delivery can't unload you for 2 hours or 3 hours, and they've scheduled you a pickup already? Do you know what I mean? So it's different than regular freight. So I was making the video, kind of complaining about the sitting, forecasting that I was going to end up spending the entire weekend in Las Vegas, and just being pissy about it. You guys may remember one of the viewers that day ended up saying, "Hey, listen, I want you to work for us. I will pay your fuel back." And I was like, okay, like I didn't believe it. And he did. Sent me an email after and said, "Hey, I really want you to work for us." And I was like, whatever, I'm coming home. If that works, that works, but whatever. I made the decision at that point after talking with my wife. Here's a big thing too. I was incredibly homesick because I had been gone for 3 or 4 weeks. It's something I've never done before, so I didn't know how it was going to affect me. That Friday, too, I also got a call from my wife during school. My son had a problem at school. He got into a little bit of trouble. On the Tuesday football game that week, too, he hurt himself. He got flung pretty hard, hurt his wrist. And so I had all these emotions, and I'm whatever. I don't wear emotions on my sleeve unless I'm angry. But I was really starting to get down. I even told my wife, I'm like, am I failing as a dad? Seriously, it was that bad, because I thought that, for one, he got in trouble at school. He never gets in trouble at school. And so I'm like, there's got to be something going on there. And so long story short, we made in concert with my wife, we made the decision that yes, I would come home. Told the company, they said whatever. The fleet owner gave me a little bit of gaff, and so I was pissed about that at first. But in all reality, I don't really blame him, because I still put 2,000 miles of wear and tear on his vehicle. I paid the fuel and all that stuff, but I put wear and tear on his vehicle, and he missed out on whatever load I could have possibly got for him going back. But it is what it is, And so I brought the van back, cleaned it all up, did as much as I could to make it look like new. Did forget to fill it, so it had a half a tank. And, and I'm not going to go into specifics about the fleet owner, with the daily fines and all that. If the guy wants to do it, he wants to do it. He's going to get one over, and there's nothing I can do. He sent me a text today and said there will be deductions. I'm like, okay, dude, I really don't care. But I also realized that I wanted to make a video to talk about the company, C&M Transport, and why I would recommend other people go work for them. Because this is something that's interesting too. While it didn't work for me, because I'm the type of person, if you guys can't tell, I can't sit idle. It's just not in my nature. I have to be doing something. I have to be thinking. I have to be, putting actions and, creating that's just what I do. I can't sit. And they all warned me. I mean, the fleet owner warned me about sitting. I have the Facebook message. He warned me, you're going to sit. The dispatch or the recruiter, he warned me, and it's like, why? He's literally like, why do you want to drive and sleep and live in a Sprinter van and sit around and wait and blah blah blah? And I was like, I don't know why I want to do it, but I do. So they tried to warn me. I would recommend anybody that wants to see the country, make money while doing it, and that doesn't have a family or even a high financial requirement that wants a job. It's an awesome job to do that. Do you know what I mean? If you're a single guy just right out of college, you don't know what you're going to do for your life. You've been driving for 3 or 4 years. You got a perfect record. You want to see the country. When I was 20 years old, I hitchhiked across the United States for 2 years. So I've already seen a lot. And this trip out to Vegas filled that thirst that I've had for so many years to go out and see the desert and do all that stuff that I did. So it's, I was thinking about it today. And I was like, it would have been the perfect job for me 18 years ago, before I met my wife. Perfect job to go around, see the country. You get to stop. I was stopping and taking pictures. I've got so many pictures on my phone from that trip out to Vegas, stopping at the rock patterns. I'm FaceTiming with my wife in the middle of the desert. She's like, why are you happy outdoors? You're not happy outdoors here. And I'm like, I don't know what's going on. But I was really it's what I wanted to do. I've talked to you guys about traveling across the country for years. So I was very fortunate that I was able to do it. The reason why I would recommend C&M is not, granted, they have the faults of the dispatching and all that stuff, but it's to be expected. And if you don't have a place to go, meaning you're not trying to get home or see your kids or do all the things that I was trying to do, and you don't have the mind like mine that never stops, it's a perfect job. Because I mean, you can get out and you can go sightsee, in the cities. Say you're in delivering to Chicago and you want to go see all the sights in Chicago. You have time to do that. And because they call you and say, hey, you got to pick up in a couple hours. And you're like, okay, I'll go back to the van now. You know what I mean? Or you just go out of service, say you want to spend a weekend in California because you're stupid. Like, you can do that. You have the flexibility of doing it, especially in the Sprinter vans, because you're not limited to, big parking. The Sprinter vans, you can go wherever. And they have the bed, they have the microwave fridge, all that good stuff in it. So you can kind of, camp wherever you want. So it's a very, very good job. Now, the reason I would recommend C&M specifically is because the level of service outside of the dispatching thing, but again, that's my preference. The level of service I got whenever there was an issue was, it blows anything I've ever experienced in trucking out of the water. If I had an issue had a shipper or receiver, they immediately dealt with it. And I'm not even joking, immediately dealt with it. If I had an issue with the app or I had an issue trying to get an image uploaded or something, immediately dealt with it. Like, there was one time I was delivering in South Carolina. I didn't have any cell service. I wanted to verify I was at the same place at like 6 o'clock in the morning. They looked it all up on the maps and without hesitation. And in trucking, that is rare, where your dispatcher has the time, and they didn't even have the time to do it. They still do it. You could hear the phones ringing around them, but it's, when you're on the phone with them, you are their priority, which is just something that in the transportation, I haven't experienced. Like I said, the recruiting director, the operations manager for the company, those guys are incredibly knowledgeable and just good. And the accounting ladies, like, they would send a message and they're like, hi, can you please send me the bill of lading? It didn't upload properly. And so I send it and they're like, thank you. They like write you a message, not like thanks. They're like, thank you so much. Hopefully you're having a great day. I compared it to someone and I was like, they're nice almost to a fault, because they're like very nice, all the accounting people. And when they came in and met everybody, it's cool because you could put a face to it. So I would definitely recommend it to people that, one, have a good driving record, two, don't mind sitting, because that is one thing. They warned me about it. I didn't pay attention to it, but don't mind sitting. And second, and the most important thing I would do for everyone, which is something I didn't do, and this is why, like, my future pay is kind of in jeopardy. It's because I didn't read the contract that I signed with the second fleet owner. The first one, he was fine. He paid me all the money he needed to, even though I brought his truck back. He didn't complain. He paid me early. The second fleet owner is kind of, and I don't know. It's weird because, like, today I was like, I don't really blame him. I just wish he wasn't, effing me over and taking all the money. And maybe he won't. Maybe I'll get some sort of settlement. But I didn't get an earnings sheet, so I don't think it's happening this week. And it is what it is. And it's in the contract. And could I fight it? Could I litigate the contract to get my money? Yeah, obviously. I wasn't an employee. I could go file $35 and file a lawsuit, but whatever. He apparently needs the money more than I do. And I want to make it clear that even though I have the issue with the fleet owner, it's not a reflection on the company. The company itself is one that, if I didn't have all the obligations I do now as a dad and a husband and, me, I would definitely go back. I would try to do it. The one thing I would do differently, though, just because I would own my own van. I would buy a Ford Transit van myself, one of the big ass ones, or a Sprinter, and I would own the van, because you make a lot more money. It would make it a lot better to sit. You know what I mean? Because the fleet owner made 40% of everything I did, and he just owned the truck. He covered the maintenance as well, but he was making bank. You know what I mean? So he was actually taking home more than I was, and I was the one driving. And I mean, that's why he does it. That's why he's got so many trucks. So it's a very cool career. I know that there's been a couple of viewers that just liked it and decided that they're going to go out and buy Sprinter vans. I know one of our long time since a freight broker one, he's got his Sprinter van posted all over his social media now. He's super excited. He didn't go this expedited route. He actually went with a different company, but he's doing it, and he's set up. He's got a nice rig too. So I'm happy that it works, but I wanted to make it clear I would go back and do it again. I wish I did it 18 years ago. I wouldn't go back and do it now, but I wish I did it 18 years ago, because I could have, or when I was traveling the country or anything like that, because it would have just been a better time for me to do it. and I recommend, if you don't have those, like if you don't have kids in your house, you're retired, but you may not have the budget to go see the country, but you have a perfect driving record and you're able-bodied, because you do have to like sometimes load the truck, even though you get paid for it, but you do have to help load and secure and all that. If you can do that, you can follow instructions and you can safely drive down the road at night. The thing about Expedited is you'll get a load that's going 1,100 miles that has to deliver the following day, and you have to do it. If you accept the load, you have to do it. You know what I mean? And so it does wear on you. You get tired and all that stuff. But if you can drive, you can put the pedal to the metal, and you're just sitting around right now wondering what the hell you're going to do, call these companies. And if you have the resources to buy your own van, then call these companies. You know, either C&M or any of the other ones. There's Panther, V3. I don't know anything about those, but knowing what I know about C&M, I would say just go over there. You know, because, you know, especially if you don't mind sitting, because you will sit a lot more than I could deal with. But if you don't mind it, get a little hotspot in there. Like I had a TV that was on a bungee cord. Every day when I drove, I took it down, put it on the bed. When I was sitting, I just had a TV and I just watched Netflix or, you know, Paramount or whatever every single day. But to me, I could only do it for like 2 hours before I'm like, what am I going to do? Like I was bored, you know, tried to go to the gym and all that stuff, but it still didn't really help. Someone said, how much money can you make a week? That's the thing. It varies. So, you know, I had some weeks that I made like $500. I had other weeks that I would have made probably 1,500 bucks. But the problem is, I'm not going to get any of that money because the fleet owner is telling me he's not going to pay me. So, but you know what? It's still, you know, I don't take it back, you know, at all. You know, I'm glad I get to see my family. I actually think it may have helped us because, you know, she got a little break from me and how intense I am all the time and all that. So I mean, that's my review of the company. If you're out there looking for something to do, that it's a great opportunity, you know, and you get to see the country, you get to see everything. And someone said I was looking at medical courier jobs that pay by the hour. Yeah, I mean, this isn't a pay by the hour job at all. But someone said you only make money if you have a load and the wheels are turning. That's correct. Yeah. So, and I was lucky I had the social media thing that kind of compensated for the loss, because again, $500, it's not enough, you know, to provide for my family and all that stuff. You know, we have kids. So, but someone said, what did I miss? Why isn't he paying you? Because he's got this thing in his contract, which basically means that he can charge me $100 a day because I didn't give him a notice for 14 days. That in all reality, it's in his contract. Could I litigate it? Yeah, because it says that I don't have to take any loads. So I could have been just on break for 14 days and given a notice. And I said that to him when I talked to him today, because I asked him point blank. I said, are you going to pay me, or are you just going to pepper me with deductions and just not pay me? And he's like, well, you will have deductions. I'm like, all right, dude, you must need the money more than me. And we kind of ended the conversation there. And I decided at that point, I'm not going to spend any more. And it's not a reflection of the company. You know, and there was some mention of social media, and I'm like, I have no complaint with them. Actually, I like them a lot, and I would refer business to them, and I will in my new role. But you know, the fleet owner is just he is what it is. He is what it is. So that's it. Okay, so now here's the big news that everybody's been waiting for, right? So many of you guys know I went down to Tennessee yesterday. I had it wasn't really an interview because I pretty much already had it, but we had to figure out some stuff, and I did accept an offer. They accepted my offer actually, because you know they asked me what I wanted, and then by the time I started thinking about everything, I needed more, because the role is literally just like I put on Twitter a few minutes ago. I've been hired to create and launch a freight brokerage where I have complete and utter control of everything. I have the financial backing, but more importantly, I have the support to help me, you know, slow down at times or everything. So basically, the idea of what I've had for a logistics company for the 17 years I've worked in the industry, I now get to build it. And I'm so excited about it. I get to provide for my family while doing it. So it is literally the best opportunity that's ever landed at my doorstep. And I'm super excited about it. I was telling someone else today when I was driving home, I was like, you know, it was like talking to versions of me. There's like a quieter version of me, and there's a guy that's just like me, except smaller. You know what I mean? We have the same mentality. So I think it meshes really well. So, you know, I'll be building something that is and I'm not going to talk too much about it now, but I'll tell you, a lot of the people that have been working in trucking and logistics for a lot of years, there's a lot of complaints that you have about brokers. Well, I aim to fix them. And not only fix them, I aim to be completely transparent about it all too. So anyone that knows the trucking industry, and there's keywords right there that I just said, now you understand. We will be the only freight broker that has that policy, which I'm really excited. So I'll be working hybrid. So I'll be working some up here, the majority down in Tennessee, and just doing a pretty big commute. But it's okay, and at least for the next 4 or 5 weeks, because I told them I don't want to miss my son's football games anymore. I want to go to them. So I'm going to do like a hybrid thing and do, a couple of days up here, drive down, do, 3 or 4 days down there, same thing, coming back and forth and just building out this idea. And it's going to be great, and so I'm excited about it. But this is the catch. Um, this is the catch. The politics and all that are completely done. In fact, I'm probably not going to be on social media that much. I'm going to go back to just talking about logistics, but not even the logistics news. I'm going to try to do a lot more education style logistics, podcasts with people explaining things in the trucking industry that people should know or that I believe they should know. I'm going to try to figure out whether or not I can keep the audience, because a lot of the people that watch this on YouTube specifically are here forever. You know what I mean? So they're the ones that have been watching since the Freight Broker Live Day. You're going to want to stay abreast of everything that I'm doing. So we'll be doing that. Someone said, what about coffee and tea? The coffee and tea company is going to expand too. It's just not, politics doesn't play an active role in it. So Pure Truth Coffee will continue, we'll expand it. I've pretty much outsourced everything that comes with that coffee company now, from procurement to everything. So it's kind of its own running machine. So I don't spend more than maybe an hour a week on it now. Although I am still trying to get caught up on the back ones and build them in the new system, but it's coming together. So the coffee will probably expand. You'll start seeing a bigger presence when I advertise and all that stuff. But yeah, so I mean, basically what I'm saying is that the politics side of things, I'm going back towards the Freight Broker Live days, and that's not just because it's something that I wanted to do. It was kind of a requirement of my deal. Because the politics doesn't help business, and being, as outspoken as I was, a lot of you guys don't necessarily understand the consequences of doing the political talk on here, from death threats, from doxing, from all the stuff that's happened over the past couple of years. And so companies obviously are quite hesitant when it comes to that. So that's what we're gonna do. Someone said I might PM you. I have my own rig, but I drive part time for UPS. Always looking for a good broker. Yeah. So yeah, we have that. Plus, it's an asset-based carrier. So if any of you guys have a truck, or you're leased on to somebody else, or you have your own truck, or you want to buy a truck or something like that, we are an asset-based carrier. You can work with me and then say, hey, I want that funny-looking guy, Steve, to dispatch my truck. And I'll dispatch your truck. I'll onboard you and I'll dispatch your truck. And we could do it. And I think their split's 88%. So they take 12, you get 88%, plus you have to pay the insurance and all that stuff. So I don't know that much. Someone said, what am I doing about school? Nothing. Continuing to go to school, just like, I was before. So someone said, is the website down? It was. I fixed it, though, when I was driving home. So, but yeah, so that's it. Someone said, I watched Freight Broker Live and I know zilch about trucking. Yeah, I mean, it was good, and that was one of the best ways to get out there and talk about it. So like I said, in terms of the social media stuff, it's going to change, like my Twitch and all that. It's just going to be a gaming channel. I'll probably just game. I'll probably, soften the channel up, or maybe delete it and start a new one. That one's already monetized though. But, my kid's gaming computer is there. I was thinking about, putting another one there for the other kid. And where I play here on one computer, he's playing there, and we have cameras and I'm switching them all. And so, people could just watch us play just as a family. Spend some, dad time with the boys, just video gaming, which is something I like, and they like it too, so it works. And then, yeah, I mean, just as of right now, the politics is done, So, what was going on? But yeah, it's, that's that. So that's essentially it. I'm gonna ghost everyone for a little bit until we figure it out. You're gonna see a lot of the content. The main Facebook page, I'm gonna try to figure out if I can get rid of a lot of the videos and the political stuff on it. If I can't, then I'm just gonna delete it. And just kind of start over. Same with YouTube. Well, I'm not going to delete YouTube. I'm just probably going to get rid of all the videos from when the last Freight Broker Live one. Because to be honest, the last Freight Broker Live videos that I've done, or all the videos that I did before explaining the freight industry, I have dozens of people that watch those every day and comment and all that stuff. So someone said I'd give you 3 months. Well, I signed a contract. Well, no, not with this amount of money. I'm going to build the biggest damn logistics company ever. So. And you'll be excited about it. So we'll we'll figure it out. Yeah, the page names on anything, Facebook, all that stuff will never change. The only thing is I got to figure out an easy way. Like YouTube, I can just mass select videos and delete them. Facebook is not that way. You have to delete each post individually and, talk about 15, 20 posts every single week, and before it was every single day. That's a lot of posts to try to correct. So I got to find a way to do it and figure it out. But I'm pretty excited about it, and I think it's going to be good. And I know a lot of people watch it just for the political commentary and stuff, and it was fun. It was fun while it lasted, but I don't want to do it anymore. And the company doesn't really want me to do it anymore, and not because of censorship or anything like that, because they want me to spend my time building what they're paying me to build, and so that's essentially what I'm going to do, and I think it makes the most sense to do. So with that, I think I'll see you the next time. We'll probably have a logistics podcast that'll come out once a week. It's something we were talking about today, because originally they just wanted me to nuke everything. And then somehow from last night's conversation today to today, they changed, because they're like, you have a huge audience and many of the people watch freight. So, and so I'm excited about it. So, I'm still going to be involved in politics personally, but I'm just not going to talk about it as much unless it involves supply and logistics, and we'll talk about it. But I appreciate all of you guys for the support forever. Make sure you check out Pure Truth Coffee. I'll probably create a new Facebook page for Pure Truth Coffee, and I'll be putting out content, memes, and all that stuff for coffee for a long time. Maybe a hint of politics on that side. And you'll see ads and stuff as we go with the coffee side, because I am going to ramp that up, because again, it's self-sufficient now, but yeah, we'll see you all with the next video, whenever that is.